everybody, and welcome back to Altknots. Welcome to another day here in the yarn dungeon where I'm all about showing the world that crochet is killer. Today we are going to go ahead and take apart, if I can get it off the table, the Sentro knitting machine. We are going to take this all apart, we are going to clean it, we are going to successfully put it back together, and then we are going to be able to fly through projects. If you've had your Sentro for a while and you have yet to clean it, you're going to be seriously amazed by how much better it actually works after you clean it. This is also just good to know if you are just pulling your Sentro out of the box. It's always good to know, know your machine, know the parts that are in here, how to take it apart, how to put it back together. All around, basically, it's just good to know if you have a Sentro. There are some things that we are gonna need. First off, you're gonna need 2 bowls here. Basically 1 bowl and then a smaller bowl will totally be fine. There are a lot of tiny parts, and we don't wanna just throw them around everywhere. We wanna make sure we know where they're at. There are also 2 different sizes of screws that we're gonna be pulling out. So it's nice to just keep those in 2 different areas. That's why I'm like, get a big bowl and then get a tiny bowl. That one's only gonna have 4 screws in it. You can technically just leave it on the side, but I like to leave it in another bowl here. Grab a rag here. I use the microfiber ones because it's seriously so nice. You can just wipe it and it just attracts the fuzz. You don't really have to put much work into it, which is totally perfect. Also, if you have had your Sentro knitting machine for quite a while and maybe you've never pulled it apart, it's maybe starting to make some weird creaky noises, or you've noticed it's dropping stitches quite frequently, something like that, or you've just pulled it out of the box and it's already making those noises, something's happening, something's not going right, you might want to go ahead and grab some oil as well. Now, it is super important that we get the right oil for this because we can't just use any sort of oil for any sort of knitting machine. This is a circular knitting machine at home. There we go, pull it off again. And it is plastic, all of this is plastic. So you have to get an oil that is also compatible with plastic. If you use something from an electric knitting machine that is designed for metal and you put this on here thinking it's gonna be great, it's gonna eat this. It will actually dissolve this plastic. Maybe not right before your eyes, but eventually over time, it's gonna totally destroy your machine. So not what we're looking for. The one that I use here, it is a silicone-based lubricant, and I will leave a link to it down below, but I use this one on all of my circular knitting machines, and I do it in a particular way as well. I like to go ahead and actually put it on the rag and not just glob it all over it. That way I have a little more control over it. I know where it's going. That's just a personal preference though. Take it or leave it, however you want to do it, but that's how I'm gonna show you how to do it today. So if you are still here with me and you're ready to clean your machine, go ahead and find an area to kind of spread out in. Honestly, like I said, there are a lot of parts, you're gonna need a little bit of space. Make sure you grab some caffeine and let's go ahead and clean up our knitting machine. I also forgot to mention that this little screwdriver here actually came with this knitting machine, and it is so perfect for getting all of the screws out of the machine and pulling everything apart. So if you still have this laying around, definitely go grab that. Otherwise, just get something that is going to be able to get these screws out. They are rather small there, so you'll have to find something, like I said, little tiny like that. So starting off, all 4 of these screws in the center here, we're going to take those out. And these are the ones that are different from the 7 that are on the bottom that we're going to be taking out. So I'm going to put all 4 of them in this bag. I didn't find another actual container to put them in, so this bag is gonna have to work. Grab this last one here, and perfect. Okay, so that is loose. Now we're gonna go ahead and flip this over, and on the bottom here, like I said, there are 7 screws that we need to take out. All of these right here. You can go ahead and just leave the legs on. Honestly, that's not gonna affect anything because we're gonna take this whole bottom part off anyways. And just place it in that bowl there so I don't lose it. All right, you can see that it's already starting to kind of come apart here. Flip it back over, and then we're gonna pull this white part right off here. So it is kind of locked over here, so you kind of just wanna wiggle it a little bit. Don't put too much pressure. Like if it's pulling on it, something is obviously stopping it. And you don't want to get this stuck under here and risk actually breaking this handle. So just be patient and gently wiggle it off. Underneath here is where we're gonna clean. So go ahead and take this microfiber rag, clean up all in here. Honestly, I like to clean each layer as I go. That way I can stack them back on each other. So that way it's a lot easier to put it all back together. Mine is also not super dirty right now. Like I said, I do a lot of maintenance on it. But if you're finding that you have a ton of fuzz on here and the microfiber is just not picking everything up, then I go ahead and use this, which is just like a little handheld vacuum cleaner. I think it's actually meant for a car, but honestly, I just go ahead and turn this on and kind of blow everything out first. Sometimes if I'm using something really fuzzy, I'll actually have fuzz on the side here, and even on the edges here, there'll be fuzz. So if that's the case, you know you have a ton of buildup, definitely go ahead and blow some of that out there. That way you can also get into some of the small areas that your rag might not get into otherwise. Next, we're gonna take this part off here. Once again, just be careful that you don't go ahead and bump any of those teeth. You're gonna wanna flip it over, and that's the area that you're really gonna wanna focus on cleaning. Like I said, if there is a bunch of buildup, here is where you're gonna see it. So you don't need to add any sort of like oil or anything to this. This literally just needs to be fully cleaned. Stack that over there. This next one comes out and the teeth are underneath it. So again, just pull it off carefully there and flip it over and clean the exact same way here. Next, pull off this beige color here, pull that off and flip it over. There's a little bit of fuzz here, so just go ahead and go through this. Then just go ahead and wipe it down again. Then take this white piece out here. That's actually kind of what's holding in most of the teeth here. And here you can see that there is a little bit of oil. I don't put a ton of oil on it. There are some areas that need to be cleaned up here. If you do add oil onto it though, now is the time to like wipe this off and totally start new. For the teeth, we are gonna go ahead and take each one of these out, and this is pretty simple actually. You just pull right up like that and they fall right out. That's it. On the bottom here, you can see that there is a little bit of oil on them. I don't put a ton of it once again. It's just enough to make it slide in and out easily in there. We're gonna go all the way around, clean every one of these and toss them into this bowl here. That's really what we needed it here for. Just start going around and cleaning them all up. Now we're gonna take this one off, and this is normally where you're gonna find a lot of the fuzz, a lot of the old oil that you need to get off. Since every one of those teeth had some sort of oil on it, each one of this is gonna have a little bit. And then also on the outside as well, there's gonna be oil there. So if there's a ton of stuff that's stuck onto this, definitely go ahead and clean this up here. This really doesn't look too bad, so I'm not like super mad about this. I think just like normal maintenance here. This is a great time to go ahead and add a little bit of oil to this handle here. You can just use this bottle, the little squeeze bottle, and just do a really tiny little bit. Honestly, it goes a very, very long way, but add a little bit and then just kind of crank this through to make sure it gets in everything there and you're not hearing like any sort of like plastic grinding anymore, then you're good. Here is where a lot of bits of the fiber collect as well. So make sure you're just like doing a thorough job of like cleaning the inside, cleaning the outside, and then we're good to go. Now we're gonna go ahead and reassemble everything. Replace the black part and make sure that these grooves are upside down. So this goes down here because that needs to attach onto here so it can go ahead and catch and actually turn. Now we're gonna add all the teeth back in. There is kind of an order to doing so. All right, so we're gonna crank this over. Right here, there is a little bit of a notch. Let's see if I can get a close up. There's a notch right there. So the white one needs to go there. That's gonna go ahead and crank over, and for the counter, it's gonna make it go over. So that's what's saying this is the beginning or the ending of the row. In order to put more oil back onto the teeth, I don't like to do it directly onto the teeth, so I just put a little bit into the actual microfiber here. Let's find that white tooth, and kind of just like do it a little bit lightly like that. Like I said, it goes a long ways, so I don't need a ton on it, and I just don't need it to be super, super messy. I just need it to function the way that it's supposed to. There's a flat part here, and then there's the ridge edge. Also, you can tell because the tooth will be pointed out to grab the yarn. That needs to be pointed out this way. So we're gonna drop that back in. That's the only one that actually matters where it goes. All the rest of them can go back in. So go ahead and add the oil and throw them all back in here. And once again, you don't need to be putting any oil on the actual tooth part. It's just the bottom part here. The oil that I'm using here, it doesn't have a smell to it or anything like that, but still you don't want to get like sticky all over the yarn or anything that you're using. Just kind of focus on putting on the bottom part here. We're gonna add the white part back into the middle of this here. Now make sure you go ahead and line these up so there is a little bit of a ridge here, and that goes right over this spot right here. Line those up, drop it in place. Once again, everything should slide into place very easily. So if something is not being pushed down without you physically pushing it, it means that something is not in the right order, not in the place that it's supposed to be. So don't force it, just definitely take your time. Then we're gonna put the screws back into here. And make sure that you don't over tighten this. Like honestly, it just needs to be in there enough to keep it secure. Definitely don't put any extra force into it. It can misalign some of the parts if it's too tight in a certain area. That's one of the things, if you notice that your machine has a bit of clicking, it could either be these are too tight or the ones on the bottom are too tight. So just something, whoa, something to kind of keep in mind when you're putting everything back together. This part really only has one area to go. There's a little notch that's cut out, and that slides right over this little notch that's also here. So slide that back in there. And once again, you can see that we did it right because it slides like that right over the white tooth. This is gonna slide over the counter as well to keep track. Slide that back. Now we have this part. This one can go anywhere. I like to go at this side though, and put it through the ones that are like raised up a little bit here. Put those through first. And this one definitely takes some wiggling around just because the teeth are already kind of in like new places here. So you might have to turn it a little bit to get everything to fall, but this should lay nice and flat. So if it's not, that means one of the teeth is getting in its way and it'll make that noise there. Perfect. All right, nice and flat, everything is laid down. This next one has all the numbers on it. So for the white tooth, we need to find that, and we need to find number 48. So number 48 with the little notch there, line that right up over top of the white tooth. Everything's looking good, everything is laying flat, but just kind of like do a double check here, make sure nothing is sticking up at a weird angle. If everything seems fine, then we'll place this back on top. So line that up there. That should slide up and that should pop in place. Perfect. All right, so we have the screws in there. Now we just need to flip it on the bottom. And starting at the handle here, we're gonna replace all 7 screws. Make sure that you kind of hold both pieces here in order to put the first screw in, so it's actually going into both of the parts. And just do it so it's tight, that they hold each other. Once again, don't over tighten. That can literally be the worst thing for the machine. And that is it. That's all there is in order to clean this. Now, if you want to go ahead and try it, just kind of crank through a little bit here. We did it right because watch the white one as it goes over, the counter goes perfect. Things are aligned, they are working. This part is definitely working better. The past couple of days that I've used this, this has been grinding. So that's exactly what it needed. It needed a full, intense cleanup here. Alright, so I hope that this video gave you the confidence that you needed in order to take apart your machine, get everything all nice and cleaned up, working the best way that it possibly can. If you did take yours apart, please let me know in the comments down below, what color of fuzz did you find? Like, what was the most prominent fuzz color? It ends up being like a collage of however long it's been since you've cleaned your machine. Like, sometimes it'll end up being one color for me, other times it'll be just like a rainbow plethora of fuzz everywhere. Let me know what you found. But that is all I have for you ghouls today. So once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me here in the Yarn Dungeon. Have a fantastically spooky day, and I will see you in my next video.